Hey, what's up guys? Dr. Kyle Loveless here. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about what type of testing should you get if you have psoriasis. And you can say, well, how do you know you don't know me? How do you know what testing I need? And you're absolutely right. I'm going to go through the testing, the core testing, the main things I do with almost everybody that comes in with psoriasis. And then I'm going to go through some of the smaller level ones that I do with other certain individuals and why I do them with those individuals. And maybe from watching this video, you're going to be able to say, okay, I think this is what I need to do, you know, all that stuff, all that aspect of it. And I'm happy to help you with that testing process. It's actually a pretty simple process to get and go through all that with you in the future. Part of our, going through our courses, we'll be talking through some of this as well. But the first one that I recommend, I'll just dive into it for you guys. Well, first, let me take a step back. What are we looking for when we test? Why would we test? When we're testing, what I'm looking for is why is the body stuck in an inflammatory response? I'm not looking to how do I get rid of inflammation. I'm not looking for just what you're deficient in. I'm looking at why is the body stuck in an inflammatory response. And then when we get these test results back, I look at those test results and I don't say, okay, vitamin B12 is low, take vitamin B12. This is off, do this, do this. No, I'm going to look at it and say, okay, what is this picture along with, of the test, along with the patient's symptoms, along with the patient's lifestyle, along with the other health issues that they've had, along with the medications that they're taking, along with other supplements they've been taking. What does all that tell me about what's happening in that person's body? And then we come up with a game plan. I hope that makes sense. Because a lot of times functional medicine will say, okay, you're low in these things, let's give you these things. I know there's some like muscle testing techniques that a lot of docs do for nutrition and says, okay, you're low in this, take this. You're low in that, take this. I want to get to more of a why is your body creating that response, whereas so-and-so isn't. Why is your body becoming deficient in those things, whereas so-and-so isn't? You have two people eating the same thing, doing the same stuff. One person's deficient. The question is why? And a lot of times it goes back to gut problems. A lot of times it's liver issues that have built up over the years. Maybe it was a physical health issue you had in the past. Maybe it's a concussion. I mean, guys, there's so much. It could be mold buildup in your environment and you're living in a moldy environment that's stressing you out. It could be not just amalgam building up, but root canals. Root canals put your body into this chronic stress response, and it could be that's led to the psoriasis or the other autoimmune issue. So the testing really isn't a let's test and treat for the testing, but it's a big picture of what's actually happening in your body, okay? The first test I like to use, because it's something I can immediately take stress off the body with, is a food allergy test. And what I say by immediately take stress off the body, when we do an IgG and even an IgE food allergy test, we're looking for foods that create inflammation in your individual body. When you eat them, that would cause stress, okay? Now, if I'm eating eggs, this is, for having psoriasis since I was 4 to about 34 years old, and I'm 40 now, I ate a lot of chicken eggs. I mean, there was times where I'd have 8 to 10 a day when I was younger, trying to, bulk up because I'm a skinny guy and I wanted to get bigger, just like any guy does back in the day. But I would eat tons of eggs, and I would just be tired all the time. And so this is something I was eating regular. I took eggs out, I took black pepper out, I took some of these other foods. You've heard my story before, probably if you've watched me before. But I took these things out, and the psoriasis finally went away. And so these were things that I was eating daily. They were putting stress on my digestive system, creating an inflammatory response, leading to the autoimmune skin issue that I was dealing with. And so a food allergy test is a primary first test for anyone dealing with psoriasis, okay? If you want access for any of those kind of testing, we do this testing in our office. I'm not selling it. I've had enough people reach out to me and want it. So they're in the section below, or just ask for the food allergy test. We send you a link. You literally can purchase it right there. The lab will send it to you. We use Diagnostic Solutions Lab. They'll send that kit to you. You do all the stuff it says to do. It's a finger prick test at home. You send that back to the lab. They send us and you the results. And if you want to talk to me about them, go over them. We have our fees and we do that stuff. If you just want to look at them and make the changes, it's pretty simple. So you don't usually need me in helping you in that process. Food allergy test number 1, and I've had people just do that and they've gotten rid of psoriasis. Again, I've had people do that and get rid of psoriasis. I'm not saying you're going to do that and it's going to get rid of your psoriasis. I want to make myself clear. Everybody's individual, and you're looking for pieces of the puzzle to reduce stress on your body. That might be the biggest piece and make the biggest difference. It might just be part of the piece. But I definitely think it's a first step because it's the easiest one, the quickest one to change. The next one I recommend doing is this stool test. And I recommend a stool test because we want to get a picture of what's happening in your GI tract. We want to see, hey, is your body actually breaking food down? You'd be surprised at how many stool tests that we get back where they're full of fat in the stool. that means their gallbladder, even the liver, it isn't working very well. It's very sluggish, and they're not breaking down fat. Well, if you don't break down fat, you're not getting a lot of you're going to use the vitamin D, the vitamin E, the vitamin K, these fat-soluble vitamins that are in our fats that we need to actually be healthy. Okay, and so you're eating fat, but it's not breaking it down. And if fat gets into the lower GI tract, it's inflammatory. It's hard on the lower GI tract. We need that stuff to be broken down. The other stuff the stool test tells us, it tells us what's going on in your microbiome. I've had plenty of people taking probiotics for psoriasis, and it's not doing anything. They think it's working, but then we look at their stool tests and they're way overgrown in bacteria, and it's actually just putting more stress on the body because we want commensal balance. Okay, good bacteria balance, not good bacteria overgrowth. It's a big deal. So you want to have it in balance. I've had people where we do the stool test and they have a parasite. You can't just tell you have a parasite. You can go through parasite cleanses and you can spend all that money hoping that that's the answer, or we can just do a stool test, say, yeah, that's the answer, start working on that. I've had patients with yeast overgrowth. A lot of people think, oh, they've had psoriasis or even eczema and skin issues, that it's a yeast problem. I've had plenty of patients, I'm just going through my what I've seen, okay? I've had plenty of patients with psoriasis and have absolutely no yeast. I had a guy come in that was doing a carnivore diet for psoriasis, which can be very effective, right? I don't recommend it long term. Some people I know would disagree with me on that, but that's what, based on the research I've done, that's what I've decided, that we need omnivore kind of a lifestyle. But they've done a carnivore diet and their psoriasis got worse. Come to find out, we look at their stool test. The stool test is kind of off a little bit. We're still trying to figure it out. And because of what's so inflammatory in the stool test, it was one of the biggest inflammatory responses I've seen in the stool test. And I'm thinking, okay, this doesn't make sense. We talk about what kind of meat he's eating. He's eating conventional meat, crazy inflammatory. Any study you've ever seen on meat that tells you meat's bad for you, red meat's bad for you, they're using conventional meat. It is bad for you. It is very inflammatory, and he wasn't getting the benefit he thought he should be getting because he's eating the wrong type of meat. So he changed the type of meat he was eating, and voila, things start to shift because it just wasn't given a good healthy animal, right? A cow raised the way a cow's supposed to raise has about a 1 to 4 ratio, 2 to 4 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids. And that's what you need for good, healthy cellular health and no inflammation, or at least because of fats. Whereas the average conventional meat is going to be more like a 20 to 1 ratio, extremely inflammatory. Okay, so I said that backwards. I'm sorry. 4 to 1 ratio omega-6 to omega-3s, and 21 ratio omega-6 to omega-3s is what a conventional cow is going to do. And so it's going to be inflammatory. So my point is that stool test help us look more in depth for him, and it's a very valuable test. Those are the two. Those are like the absolute. If you want to do testing for food allergies, those are what you go with. Now there's the other ones too that are very important, like vitamin D3. You hear me do a lot of videos saying 20,000, 15,000, 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3. Yes, and I know that the studies on high levels of vitamin D3 causing problems are extremely outdated and not really good to follow. And so I know you can have higher levels of vitamin D3 without necessarily getting arterial wall damage, especially if you follow a low calcium and healthy diet, but you still need to know, right? What if you're taking 15, 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3 and you're still at 30, you're still at 40 levels, 40 on the scale for vitamin D, and you're still there? We got a big problem with your body's ability to actually use that vitamin D3, probably a liver issue in the processing of it. So I'm a big fan of vitamin D3 tests, especially because they're so inexpensive. And then the next one next testing I do with patients, and this is not just psoriasis, this is real with any man or woman. I like to look at a male panel or a female panel for that individual. And that's hormone testing, goes through all the different hormones. It goes through thyroid function, it goes through liver, it goes to your complete metabolic panel, it goes through kidneys and all that aspect. But it also will tell us insulin levels. With psoriasis, one of the big issues is insulin sensitivity because of the autoimmune response, and so leading to diabetes and things like that. So we can look at insulin levels, A1C, we look at the blood glucose levels in fasting and find out, is that what's causing some of these problems? And then along with those panels, we do inflammatory markers like CRP, we look at detoxability through homocysteine levels, inflammatory markers like ESR. These markers actually give us a good picture. Again, we don't directly address CRP, we find out why is the body creating that inflammatory response and do it as a big picture. Kind of like instead of going to the forest and trying to treat every problem with every tree, we look at the forest and say, okay, what's happening in this area? How do we keep this forest healthy? The big picture of it all, okay? And so male or female panels to figure out what else is happening in the body. Some of the other testing I do less often, mostly because we kind of already know some of these things, is if somebody's, have an autoimmune or a health issue like this, they have psoriasis, we've done the testing, we're still just kind of hitting a wall, we're not getting the results that we want. That happens. I tell you, this is an investigation. If I got rid of everybody's psoriasis every single time, that would be amazing. But that doesn't always happen that quickly. Some people it's 20 days, some people it's 2 or 3 months. Some people, finally, after a year, we finally figured it out. Usually the people that take the longest are the ones that are depending on how little they've done before they came to me. Meaning if they're drinking, eating fast food and things like that before they came, it's gonna take longer if that was their mainstay of their diet. Whereas, like a patient 20 days, she was already doing gluten-free, she was already doing a lot of the things. It just took some twerking of the diet, taking food allergies out, adding a few supplements. But we do a viral panel to see if you have had any issues with active mono, right? Epstein-Barr virus, any kind of other herpes virus issues, things like that will affect this. There's a lot of different viral things, viral loads that will cause the immune system to be suppressed and then eventually lead to an autoimmune disease. Mold testing, that's a big one. We look at the body and see if you're stuck in this mold response from living in mold years back, which can actually happen, or you're currently in it. Every time I talk about mold, I think of a little boy that he actually had eczema, it wasn't psoriasis, but he had eczema and then a lot of other health things going on. But he was only about 1-ish years old, constipated, all these things. I'm sorry, he was 2 years old. When he was 1 year old, they moved and everything kind of shifted. And so when I was talking to him, I was like, it sounds like you have mold at your house. We had somebody come out and test their house for mold. Sure enough, there was a lot of mold. Luckily, they were renting. They were able to move. And just getting out of the moldy environment, boom, eczema stopped, kid got better. Pretty cool. And then autoimmune panels, just to look more in depth, what other autoimmune antibodies are you having? Is there things like lupus? Because once you have one autoimmune, you are susceptible to having other ones, right? Rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatoid factor, things like that. So these are the kind of tests that we do with patients, or that I like to do with patients, and based on their body. So again, food allergy and stool test, I think everybody should look into that. I think it's a great idea no matter what is happening in your body because it tells you what's happening in your gut. Vitamin D3 levels, I think everybody should do that. And I think everybody should look at a male or female panel, meaning hormones and what your balance is for those. The viral panel, the mold testing, the autoimmune panels, those are going to be more individualized. If you think you used to live in mold and you've tried all these other things to get rid of your psoriasis, maybe that's the answer. I'll tell you what, in the next few weeks, we're going to be doing a video with a mold expert to talk about this exact situation. Viral panels, I've had a lot of patients where we're just hitting the wall. We find out not only is it Epstein-Barr virus, they have Epstein-Barr, they have herpes, they have all these different viruses that are actually suppressing the immune response. And there's a way more in-depth game plan that we need to go through with that individual based on someone that doesn't. Okay? And then autoimmune panels to find out, okay, what else is happening in this autoimmune response. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. Again, if you want any help with testing or anything like that, simply just connect with us. You can look in the description below. You'll be able to find links to connect with us on that. And I'm happy to help you with it. I'm happy to walk through it personally. I'm happy to just help you get set up with the testing. When we do our testing, we don't add a bunch of fees to it or anything like that. We just do what the lab fees are. And yeah, try to help figure out what's actually happening for you in your psoriasis. And the big picture is becoming your own health expert and learning what health actually is and how do you be healthy 15, 20 years from now. Not only get rid of skin problems and psoriasis, but you're performing at a high level. And that's what I want for all of you watching these videos. I've created, and I've talked about this before, and I'll continue to talk about it because I want as many people to get on it, but we're creating courses. We're creating online courses to help you become your own health expert and get rid of psoriasis. If you want to get a part of that course, go to the descriptions below. Click on the link, it'll take you to a landing page, watch the video describing the course, and then purchase the course. And yeah, you're gonna have connection with me through that process. You're gonna be a part of a community of other people who have dealt with psoriasis and some who have gotten rid of it. And it's gonna be great. You're gonna learn a ton. It's gonna completely transform your life, I can tell you that, as we put this course together. All right, you guys have an awesome day. We'll talk to you next time.